Peace and blessings, family. I'm your brother in the struggle, Alif. And today I would like to share with you some wisdom from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's last book titled Our Savior Has Arrived, published in 1974. In this particular chapter, he teaches on the wisdom of the grasshopper. And I would like to quote him on this grasshopper and look at ourselves in this modern day and time. The messenger says on page number 138 of Our Savior Has Arrived, quote, like a grasshopper, talking about the so-called American Negro or the so-called African American, the 85%, the mentally dead. He says, like a grasshopper who enjoyed summer weather, but cold weather kills the grasshopper. It freezes him or her to death because he has no house to lodge in. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, quote, like a grasshopper who enjoyed summer weather, but cold weather kills the grasshopper. It freezes him to death because he has no house to lodge in. Home ownership is important in a capitalistic system. Right now, I'm sitting in my home. No mystery God gave us a home. We had to make things happen in order to get a home to call our own. Our home is sealed with the blood of the Lamb. It's like a spiritual vaccination. In the Bible, the real Jews, the black Jews, the Israelites, the Hebrews, they were instructed by God that a plague was coming and that this plague would cause death to come into the homes of the people. And they were warned that if they did not want death to come into that family, that they should take the blood of the lamb and put it on that doorpost. And that blood on the doorpost, that blood transfusion would be a spiritual vaccination against the evil or the destruction that came from God, the plagues that came upon the people. Most people did not put the blood of the lamb on their doorpost. Those that did, they heard and saw on Facebook and YouTube and at janazah funerals, so many FOIs and MGTs physically dying when they did not have to die. And it pained them, so much so that some of the people wanted to go out and try to help them. But Moses had to stop them by explaining that if you go out to try to help them, you're going to suffer the plagues that they're suffering from because God gave his warning before the plague came. They did not take heed to the Department of Supreme Wisdom. The messenger gives us the analogy of the grasshopper. It's not a unique analogy. It's not a new analogy. It's an analogy that's used worldwide amongst Africans, Indians, Chinese, Arabs, Europeans, Aesop fables, what have you. But in the Bible, it teaches us in the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 6, to take a lesson from the ants. And explains to us that we should study the ant or learn the wisdom from the ant or learn their ways and become wise, to have that hakimi, the wisdom of God, the Department of Supreme Wisdom. Ants live in colonies. They're nation builders. There's all kinds of ants. Ants are unique. Ants are natural, instinctive, survivalists. The first law of nature is self-preservation. Ants build their nation or their colonies underground and above ground. They have kings and queens. The workers are the females. In the black community, because of the so-called Willie Lynch syndrome, and I say so-called because I don't believe that Willie Lynch is a historical thing, and I always tell people history is not a science, but the principles are there. The empirical evidence is there. The manifest truth is there. There's lessons to be learned. Our people are like those ants. But we should study those ants because those ants do things in a smart and wise way. That when we study nature, when we look at the ant or we look at the squirrel, you look in your backyard, and we have a lot of land around our home, so we see deer and gophers and frogs and foxes, you name it. You know what I mean? But one of the things that I notice about the ants, when I go out cut the grass, I notice how the ants will build colonies. You know, if we buy some blueberries or we buy some fruits and vegetables, and the parts we don't use, I throw it out in the bushes for the animals because, we don't like wasting food. You know what I mean? And we like to recycle things, not just the trash, but even the food. Food that we may not eat, other animals will eat. We may not eat the rind of the watermelon, but other animals will eat that. So we throw our little things out there for them, the pillars, it may be the apple core, the deers and all that stuff. They like that. The beavers, the groundhogs, what have you, they'll eat that. But the ants are wise. I remember when I was a young man, I had threw a piece of candy on the ground, and it was summertime. And when I came outside the next day, I noticed the candy, because of the heat of the sweltering sun, made the candy begin to melt. And I saw all these ants on the candy, and it intrigued me. And when I studied those ants, I noticed the ants was taking the candy and carrying it, taking pieces of it and carrying it underground. So I started bringing the ants little packs of sugar, and I would pour the sugar out there, and you could see them literally pick up a cube of sugar and carry it underground. And as a student of biology, I later learned that those ants, the females, were worker ants. They were nation builders, like the MGTs, the Muslim Girls in Training, hard workers, dedicated sisters in the struggle for peace, truth, freedom, justice, and equality. So the Bible tells us to study the ant. The Holy Quran teaches us a higher science. The Holy Quran teaches us in Surah 27, ayah 16 through 19, that the ants don't operate off of instinct, but the ants operate off of intelligence. Ants can communicate with each other, and ants can communicate with us. We can learn the language of the ants, just as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Master Fard Muhammad studied the language of the birds. But we may be thinking the birds just like, because we can't make that transliteration or that translation, or we may misinterpret their sound waves traveling 1,120 feet per second for our own. But things like birds or things like dogs, they have their own hearing system. They have a different type of bone, a different type of vibration that they utilize. And they're able to communicate in their own vernacular, their own language. And that's all forms of life. That's the fish under the sea, dolphins using sonar, that's human beings, that's dogs, that's cats, that's birds in the air, that's ants included. They're intelligent people. They're intelligent beings. They exist. They have the right to exist. They deserve their space, because the Savior teaches us that we should not willfully just kill animals or insects on earth, because everything serves the law's creation. They're here, there's a reason. They have a purpose. We may not understand it. I mean, scientists think that there's such thing as so-called junk DNA. No, right now at this stage of your development, you just don't understand what it's needed for. But everything in creation serves a purpose. It occupies space. It takes up time. It's vibrating on a certain frequency. So the Bible teaches us that the ants are not strong, and they're wise enough to save their money. They're wise enough to store that food. So when you study those ants in the summertime, you'll see that they're getting ready in the good times for the bad times. Like Jesus said in the Bible, the worst is yet to come. The ants know that, but we don't know that. So when you study the squirrel, you'll see that the squirrel runs around in the fall and he's gathering his acorns and he's just so happy and glee. But it's taking them acorn and it's putting it in the hollow tree trunks. It's putting it in the holes. It's putting it in cavities. It's putting it up now for later. It's understanding that it has to eat today, but it's thinking about the future. So it shows that its brain is able to see in the future, to operate with mathematics. It's able to add and multiply, divide and subtract. That's not intelligence. That is intelligence on a human level. We call it instinct, but it's not instinct to the creature. It's really intelligence. That's not the intelligence of a human being. It may not vibrate as high as a human being, but it's still intelligence. It's just that it's not our level of intelligence. And amongst human beings, we have some that's more intelligent than others. There are a whole bunch of people that have degrees above their knees. There's people out there that know all kinds of things. There's children that could teach me. There's men that could teach. There's white people that could teach me. There's Christians I could learn from. Muslims I could learn from. Atheists I could learn from. There's people that I could teach some things to. There are car mechanics that can teach me. There are doctors that can teach me. There are psychologists and psychiatrists that can teach me. There are mathematicians that can teach me. English teachers look at my writings and my language and vernacular and be like, yo, you really just don't know how to speak proper English or write proper. You're not grammatically correct. No, I'm not that educated like that. But at the same time, I can help other people learn how to read and write. I can help other brothers and sisters get that GED. I could teach my college professors some things. So we all have different degrees, and the Holy Quran teaches us that Allah raises us in degrees. There are angels with 2 pair of wings, some with 4, some with 8, some with 16, some with 32, so forth and so on. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explains to us that the so-called American Negroes like that grasshopper. We want to hop around all summer. But there's a difference between the grasshopper and the ant. In Aesop Fables, he explained to us basically, I'm just paraphrasing and putting it in ghetto terms. You got brothers and sisters out there living the life. They hustling. They on the grind every day. They go to work, whether it's above ground or underground. They might be in the street. They might be in the corporate world. And they get the money, but as soon as the money come in, they got to use it to pay the bills. Now, the Jews are wiser, at least the ones that are biblically inclined, the Hebrews, those that live according to spiritual precepts. That thing is, okay, if I get $1, 33 cents should be used to pay the bills. 33% should be used for food right now. But the other 33%, we should invest that. And we always got a little something in reserve. In the Nation of Islam, we say ain't no broke FOIs and MGTs. The message teaches us, if you got wisdom in your head and you don't have no money in your pocket, you're just wise in your own eyes. It's a science to how you move out here in this capitalist system. My pockets ain't empty. I know how to make things happen. Not that I'm educated, not that I work for somebody, not that I'm paying tax, but I know my lessons. I think with an analytical brain. I'm using the mathematical theology as taught by Messenger Elijah Muhammad that teaches us to believe in yourself and to do for yourself. It's a science to that. Many of us don't understand problem number 13 from Master Fard Muhammad, Prophet W.D. Fard. He wanted us to set ourselves in heaven at once with peace of mind and contentment, money, mullah, cheddar, peace of mind and contentment. First, money, good homes, friendships in all walks of life. Our heaven should be contentment. We should have good health. We should have peace of mind. We should be able to go home and chill, feel comfortable, safe, confident, serene, sakina, have patience there. We should be with a inner peace. We should be like Salam Allah, the peace of God in our home, because it's in ourselves. Because the physical house is nothing until we have that mental house. In the table talks with Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explained to us, if a man has a house in his head, hypothetically, say a person in his head, in his mind's eye, he pictures a blue house in his brain, and he opens his eyes, and he's able to bring that house that's in his head into reality. That's the power of God. That is creation. That house did not exist in this material world, but in his mind, he's seen it. He saw it had 7 windows. He saw it didn't have more than 7 stories. He saw the bathroom. He saw the living room. He saw the bedroom. Or she seen it. And they brought it into reality. That's the manifestation. The mental mathematics was the idea, the determined idea. Not a weak idea, It was a determined idea, a dominant thought, not a recessive idea, not a recessive thought. It was a vision, not a dream. Those that dream dreams, just say you had a dream. But when you have a vision, it comes to pass. So when you bring that house that's in your head into reality, it takes logic. It takes universal law, cause and effect, actions and reactions, the law of polarity. Opposites attract, like repels. There's a science to it. I see so many strong brothers and sisters, educated, strong, beautiful, but broke. They be broke today, a month after I see them, a year after I see them, 5 years after I see them. Why are they broke? They're broke because they have a broke way of thinking. They have a slave mentality. They have a subordinate disposition. But when they move like that, it's not that the money is not coming through their hands. It's just that they're not able to utilize that money properly. They're not able to balance the books, the mayat. They're not able to articulate a budget. They're not able to keep that checkbook flowing properly. Their mathematics is off because they ain't studying their lessons. Our lessons, the messenger teaches us, are our blessings. He told the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, make sure the believers study their lessons because their lessons are their blessings. In 1975, Imam Worthdeen Muhammad came in, and the first thing he did, he was like, get rid of them lessons. Because you cannot destroy the nation of Islam unless you destroy the lesson. If you could get rid of those lessons, who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the creator, the planet. If you could take away a fruit is best, he is constantly training and conditioning himself to meet. If you could get rid of that, if you could get rid of the restrictive laws of Islam, mere belief accounts for nothing that's carried into practice. If you could get that dominant idea out of the brain of the ants or the believers, they will be weak. You will be able to control them like a remote control. You don't have to turn them on and off. You can push a button. They'll do exactly as you want them to do. They'll believe in any spooky nonsense you come up with. They'll be impressed with any false image you put up because they are other than their own selves. They have become from 5% poor righteous teachers to 85% mentally dead slaves for mental death and power. They're under the illusion and technology of the 10%, the rich, the slave makers of the poor. So in Aesop's fable, you have the ants and you have the grasshopper. And the grasshopper, he out there just chilling, you know what I mean? hopping around like these young boys. They hustling on the corner, know what I mean? Not in that little pocket. They getting rich, where the ants are building generational wealth. They want to be seen of men, some of them. They want to be running around on Instagram like they paid in full. You know, they want to have the fancy cars, be up in the club, throwing money all around. But the wise investor is like, man, I'm broke. You know what I mean? Because he or she understands that America is broke. If you got $1 million in America, you're broke. If you had $1 billion and you're in America, you're broke. If you have $1 trillion and you live in the United States of America, you're broke because your government is in debt for over $20 trillion. So until you're able to get from under fiat money or promissory notes, you're a fool for thinking you paid in full. You're a fool for thinking you got money. Ain't no money in this country. They could print up all the fiat money, the promissory notes, the monopoly money they want. But the reality is that's not money. When you understand barter and mediums of exchange and how capitalism became imperialism, you don't need an army to come into Africa with cannons if you could send in Tarzan that could take over the brains of the people. If you can put up a white Jesus in a black continent, you can rule that continent through remote control, through imperialism. That's the power of tricknology. It's a trick with real knowledge. And when people see tricknology, it makes no difference what they believe. If David Copperfield or Houdini came on stage and pulled out a glass of water out of a seemingly empty hat, as the messenger put it, or he pulled out a white rabbit out of that black hat, you'll see the audience spontaneously stand up and applaud. But when you look at that audience, you'll see that there's college students in there. There's people in there that understand physics, biology, chemistry, psychology, psychiatry, mathematics. Why are they applauding? There's white people applauding, black people, young children applauding, old people applauding, Christians applauding, Muslims, atheists applauding, because they're still 85%. They're still mentally dead. On a conscious level, they know David Copperfield or Houdini didn't pull that water out of that seemingly empty black hat, because their instinct, their experiences tells them that water is H2O. It's hydrogen and oxygen bonded, and it comes in solid, liquid, and vapor or steam form. That water comes from some lake, stream, ocean, or river. It can never be destroyed. And when it rises up 6 miles high, it falls back on the earth in the form of rain or drops of snow or hell or sleet. It's all mathematics. It's cause and effect, actions and reactions. It's all mathematics. Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. God does not believe in religion. God believes in nature. God believes in reality. So, what is it about tricknology that infatuates the masses? Because they don't know how delusionist was able to perform such a fantastic feat. He or she taught them that when they physically died, they would live. So they looking for life after they die. They looking for heaven outside of earth. They think that this is a republic of the people, by the people, for the people, when it's really 1% that's manipulating and controlling the slaves on the face of the planet Earth. So Aesop gave us a valuable jewel. He explained that that grasshopper was running around, some say playing his flute or whatever, but everywhere he looked, he seen nothing but green grass. And the Holy Quran teaches us about the wealthy man and the poor man, and how the wise man is grateful for his sustenance because he understands that sometimes it rains and sometimes the sun shines, and sometimes there's a storm. But the law always provides. So he's satisfied and content with his lot because he knows that he's going to keep doing things to make things happen. So we ask you, do things happen to you, or do you happen to things to make things happen? It's better to have money that you do not need than to need money that you do not have. This is the wisdom of the gods, the divine ethics, supreme angel style. So in Aesop's fable, that grasshopper didn't do any work. He's like, why should I do any work? There's grass everywhere. It's enough grass for me and my children's children's children. But those ants was busy. They was working. Those squirrels are busy. They're working. They're gathering the acorns. They're taking the sugar. They're taking the fruit. They're taking things underground. They're taking from the rich, giving to the poor. They're taking it to the hood. They don't want to have a Rolls Royce in the hood. They don't want to have temporary success. They in it for the long game. That thing is like, man, you know what I mean? As long as this thing works, it's clean, it's safe, it gets me from point A to point B, it serves its purpose. Whether it's for an Arab on a camel or a black man in a hood with a Cadillac. But my point is, the grasshopper didn't prepare for the winter. The ants prepared for the winter. The squirrel prepared for the winter. So what happens? Seasons change. The book of Ecclesiastes of that Holy Bible. And when things change, people change. Circumstances change. Environments change. Worlds collide. Nations rise and nations fall. So the ants, when the winter came and it's icy out there, it's cold out on them streets, the ant laid back. They chilling. They good. They got toilet paper during COVID-19. Know what I mean? I got my refrigerator in the kitchen and I got another refrigerator in the garage. I got my toilet paper in the bathroom downstairs and I got toilet paper in the bathroom upstairs. And I got toilet paper on the shelf in my garage. Because like the ant, I study the ant. I learned from the wisdom of that ant. I'm biblically inclined. I'm Quranically inclined. I study my lessons. I want them blessings. I prepare for the winter. You too must prepare for the winter. Because as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explains to us in his phenomenal work, I'll say it as arrived as I just read on page number 138, that grasshopper hops around all summer and he dies in the first frost. I wouldn't care if you selling bricks of dope or bricks of coke. If you selling PCP, meth, weed, moonshine liquor. If you're going to school, if you're an accountant, if you do hair, if you do clothing, if you scrub floors, if you work at McDonald's, whatever your hustle is, be mindful that it's not going to always be there. Circumstances change. Whether you own your own corporation, your own business, or businesses, you have to prepare for the winter. You have to put something to the side because you want to be like that hard-working ant or grasshopper who works in the good times to prepare for the bad times. And you don't want to be like that foolish grasshopper who kept hopping up and seeing all this grain, all this money everywhere. And what happens? The feds came. The penitentiary came. Now you just got pictures, photo out. Oh, look, this one I had my Porsche. This one was out Vegas. This one I had, I mean, that's that ice right there. Look at them shoes. That's them Gators right there. That's the Mari joints. I paid $2,000 for them. But you don't have $100 on your books. You can't pay that lawyer. Your kids lost the house. You can't pay for your daughter or your son to go to college. You can't pay for that tuition. They got to get a student loan. They got to go in debt. They got to go into that grasshopper mentality because mommy and daddy did not study the ant. The Bible is wise. The Quran is wiser. Study the ant and learn from them. Peace and blessings, family. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to this channel, the NOI report. Click that button, click that bell so you get updates on all my videos. We're going to keep bringing y'all some little self-made wisdoms, not from me, but to help you to help yourself. Peace.